The date and place of the interview, which is at Dan Carroll's home in Palm Springs, California. The name of the person that I'm interviewing is Dan Carroll. And Dan, what is your date of birth?
December 22nd, 1946.
Perfect. And the people that are attending the interview are Dan, myself, and Matthew Levy. Okay, so we're going to start pretty simple. Where did you serve?
Okay, well, you know, when you get, well, I got drafted, so immediately I went from Riverside, California up to Fort Ord for basic training, California. That's outside of Monterey there. And then after that I went to advanced infantry training in Fort Gordon, Georgia, which is outside of Augusta, I believe. And then after that I went for 3 weeks of parachute training at Fort Benning. And then after that I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I was there about 6 months, I guess, 7 months. And at that point I volunteered to go to Vietnam. And I arrived in Vietnam September 1969, and I left in June of 1970 and was discharged from the service at that point. So.
Perfect. And what was your branch of service and what was your rank?
I was in the Army, and I was ended up being a Specialist 4, which is, you start out as a E1, enlisted 1, 2, 3, 4, a specialist. That was my final rank. I was an enlisted man.
What does Specialist 4, what does that mean?
Well, it just means that, you know, it's like getting a promotion.
Okay.
You know,
you've climbed up
you start out as a E1, everybody is, and then, you know, you just, after a time, you go up to E2, E3, and E4, and I mean, you can, you know, end up being a general, I suppose.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, no, that makes sense. So you said that you did, you had mentioned, so you were it's a paratrooper?
Yes.
So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Okay, well, at Fort Benning, you go through 3 weeks of parachute training, and you make 5 jumps. I was older plane, I'm not sure what the name was or the number, but you make 5 jumps there, and then you have your parachute badge. And as I was at Fort Bragg, I actually made 2 other jumps, one out of a C-130 and one out of a C-141 Starlifter. And we flew out of Fort Pope, which is right next to Fort Bragg. Just a training jumps is what they were.
That must have been scary.
Well, it was very exciting, the first jump. You never forget the first jump.
What did you feel like?
Well,
was it scary?
Yeah, but, you know, I mean, there was a couple of guys that got up in the plane and then they didn't. They said, I'm not going to do it. So they had to land, but then they were, you know.
They were able to make that decision?
Yeah, sure, you know, but, you know, we never saw them again after that. They were washed out.
And they were sent somewhere else?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Who knows where.
Yeah, exactly. Where did they go? Maybe they went to the kitchen.
Probably KP duty.
Okay, I'm going to go back just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you were drafted.
Yes.
So how did you find out you were drafted? Like, what was the process? What was that like?
Well, everybody has to register for the selective service. I don't know if women have to do that yet, but men do. You know, I'm sure that. Anyway, so you know, the war was going on, so they needed bodies. So you register for the selective service, and then you get a number, and if your number is called, you know, then you have to go report we went from Riverside on a bus into Los Angeles, and there you have to, you know, take an oath and to defend the government, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you know, take the oath, and you go through physical, or they give you a physical, and that anyway, I thought one funny thing about it is it's like a assembly line, you know, you go from one station to the other, and the one where you look and see, you know, can you see, are you know, blind or
Mm-hmm.
what, and the guy ahead of me, he had a machine that you looked in, and the guy there says, can you, you know, you look in the machine, he said he couldn't see anything. So then the guy opened up the lid and said, can you see anything now? I mean, they're basically
Yeah.
just, you know,
Like-
whether you're half blind or not, or flat-footed, or...
They want you to go.
They needed bodies, so...
So really, it was just they just did the physicals because they had to, but they were saying
Yeah, sure, you gotta have a physical and make sure that, you know, you're not...
if you didn't have like major illnesses, basically.
Right, yeah, or, you know, you only got, you know, if you only had 1 foot, then they wouldn't, you know, it'd be deferred from... Well, they wouldn't want you.
Exactly. Okay, so you said that you volunteered to go to Vietnam.
Yes.
What were your first days like when you arrived there? I remember a previous conversation, but I'm going to have you say it again.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a long flight. We flew out of SeaTac Airport in Seattle. That's where we left from. Stopped in Anchorage just momentarily to refuel. I remember seeing the mountains and there was snow on them. And then from there we flew to Japan. And then from there to Vietnam. We landed in Cam Ranh Bay, and it was, I just remember you know, as soon as the doors opened to the plane, you feel this blast of heat, you know, humid, hot heat. You know, at that point, I said to myself, you know, this may have been a bad decision to volunteer to go
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Vietnam.
Definitely.
But that was my first impression of Vietnam. Well, coming in and on the plane flight, you could see, it was at night, so you could see tracers coming up from, you know, different areas around the base there. The Cam Ranh Bay is a big, huge military base there. So,
Were there just people everywhere when you arrived, just training and...
well, yeah, there was a lot of people there. And then we went to just an area where, you know, they give you your uniforms and stuff like that, a holding area, and then they decide where they're going to send you.
Okay.
You know, so then after that I had to go, you know, they decided to send me to this one, well, from Fort Bragg, I was in the 82nd Airborne Division, and then I was assigned to the 173rd Brigade, 173rd Airborne Brigade in Vietnam. So anyway, so they sent me out to the field to this one place called LZ Uplift, Landing Zone Uplift. And you're just a replacement. You go there by yourself. You're not with a group of people like, you know, now they send groups of people, this company, that company, or whatever. So we're just like replacement people. So, you know, if they needed people here or there, they'd send 1 or 2 people there. So that's where I ended up. And then after that, well, it's a long story, right?
Yeah, so...
9 months, so...
Exactly.
A lot of stories, but
was that your first? So that was like your first job, like assignment, was
well,
going
it was
there.
just to go there, and then, you know, then it was like a forward base. It was, you know, bunkers and stuff, and wire around and stuff, and you know, there was like barracks, temporary type of barracks. But so then the first thing they did is say, you know, like, okay. Who wants to know? I was there with a few other people, new guys. They call them FNGs, which stands for something, a blank, new guys. That's what they called us, because we were new guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get your choice. They said, okay, well, who wants to carry the machine gun? You know, and the one guy said, I want to carry the machine gun. the M60 machine gun. And the other guy says, you know, I'll take the machine gun ammunition. And so, you know, the only thing left was the radio. So I said, okay, fine.
You'll take the radio.
And so the training to operate the radio was the sergeant or whatever, he went like about 20 feet away, and he had a radio, and I had one, and he says, can you hear me? And I said, yeah, and he said, okay, you trained for the radio. So that's the way it was in the service. They're pretty, you know, it's not like you have a lot of training, especially at that point in time. So then after that, then we went out to we stayed there for a little while, then we went out to the field. And I was basically out in the field the whole time. Came back in for a couple times, but so.
How long did you do that? Did you do another job after that, or was that pretty much?
That was my job.
For
I was
the
radio operator.
Okay.
RTO, and for the lieutenant in the platoon. So I was always with the lieutenant.
What was that like?
Well, it was, you know, it was actually I liked it because you know, you monitor the radio the whole time, and so any transmissions you hear them.
You know,
so somebody calls, you know, wants to talk to the lieutenant or tells you to do something, or you know, you hear it first. You have to. So you're constantly monitoring the radio. You know what's going on before anybody else does.
Yeah, so that gives you you also always got the heads up first.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, actually. Then, did you? And I believe you said that you did. Did you see combat when you were there? And
yes,
if so,
yes,
what was it like?
Not much. It wasn't heavy combat or anything. It was just occasional. You know, basically we're just out there in the rice paddies and the hills, and we would just travel. You know, you'd go out on a patrol, and you know, but I did see a few things. You know, I think, well, I told you, you know, before my first experience, we were up on this. First, we went up to this mountain. It's called the Hawk's Nest. It was like a really tall mountain. You could overlook the South China Sea, and it was just like a communications base, you know, so they could the observatory basically. And then after that, we went down into the valley, and we were on this little bridge, just dirt roads and stuff like that. Just a little bridge with, you know, you had bunkers and, you know, barbed wire and stuff. And so, anyway, so the next day, I think it was the next day, went out on a first patrol, and that was, went out in these rice paddies right alongside of these mountains, these hills, call them mountains, whatever you want to call them. And out in the field there's rice paddies, and I just remember all these women were out there with these conical hats on, and they were, you know, picking the rice. They were doing stuff out in the rice paddies, and there's these dikes along between divide the rice paddies. So we're walking along, and there was a few huts and stuff, and we came up, you know, and we got to this one hut, and these two guys just had shorts on, no shoes, and they ran out of the hut towards the hill, up this little trail, and all they had was their AK-47s. Obviously, these were not, you know, good people. These were the enemy, you know, Viet Cong. And so, you know, the sergeant, he started shooting at him, and so I started, you know, I went to shoot at him too, but I had put my radio receiver on my right shoulder, so it got in the way, because, you know, I was a pretty good shot, really. Scored expert marksman and stuff like that, but it got in the way, so I couldn't get a good bead on it. But they were close. They were like from here to the backyard. You know, couldn't hardly miss them. But I don't think I hit any of them. But they kept running. But then they got up the trail. And so okay, so there we were, and then there were some couple women inside in hammocks in there. So I think they were in there having sex with them. You know, and we caught them off guard, and. That's aside from the point, really. But so then, stupidly, the sergeant said, "Okay, now we're going to go." So we went out in the middle of the rice paddy, and then we started getting fire from the hill there. and you couldn't see where it's coming from, or anyways, people just got down behind the dike there, and the rice paddy dike was just shooting towards the hill, and that didn't, wouldn't stop. You couldn't see what you were shooting at. You're just shooting. People were just firing machine guns and stuff, and so this one guy, found out later, I didn't know who it was, but his name was Reb, and he stood up, and he had one of those, they call it a thumper. It's like a little grenade launcher gun. I think it's 40 millimeter. And he was firing. He fired that, stood up and fired it, and then he got hit. And so then they had to call in a medevac to take him out of there. But before the medevac would come in, they had to stop the people from firing. So the sergeant called in what they call red leg, 105 millimeter artillery from the base, and they just walked it down the mountainside there, and then they stopped fire. Then the medevac would come in, and they took him off, and we heard say, well, he's dead. He was dead. So, but he only had like 5 or 6 days left in the country.
Wow.
So that was stupid of him to stand up, right?
Yeah.
So then after that was my first experience. So I don't think I hit anybody. I don't know. I mean, maybe we wounded them, maybe we didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There was just so much going on. You couldn't stand
you couldn't
up.
See, once they they stopped firing after the artillery rounds came in. So you knew that that probably would stop them anyways from firing, whether they ran in a hole or something or got hit. Who knows?
Wow. That's intense. Very intense.
Kind of scary. I actually, lost my voice. I couldn't talk. I was so scared.
Really? Like a
that.
frog in your throat?
Well, you just like you're if you get adrenaline and chokes you up, you can't talk.
Oh my
So
goodness.
that's what happened to me. But I wouldn't have known how to call in the artillery anyway. So the sergeant did that. I couldn't talk.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Scared.
Do you know if there were many casualties in your unit?
Just that one day, but there was some casualties in different times, different patrols, or where we were for different reasons.
Wow.
So.
What would you say some of your most memorable, whether good or bad experiences were when you were out there serving?
Good or bad, I think. Well, the total lack of sleep would be a bad thing, because you didn't really sleep, maybe like maximum a couple hours a night, so you were always tired. It's like kind of, if you've ever stayed up for more than a day or whatever, it's like that. You're always tired. It's kind of like in a daze.
Yeah.
So you never like fully alert. You're just ready to go, and you're just kind of in a daze the whole time. So that was a bad part of that.
And it was like that for 9 months for
Yeah,
you, basically.
for 9 months, every day. Every day was like the next. There wasn't like, okay, well, you get the weekend off or something like that. No, it was just, we were just out there the whole time, in these rice paddies or the hills, and moving from one place to another, and set up camp. And, well, not camp, you just, wherever you got to, you just lay there on the ground, or if you had a hammock in between trees.
Yeah. Wow. So you always had to have basically one eye open. You were just constantly worried.
Yeah. Just on the alert, hunting. But the idea of that, these people are trying to kill us, that really, we say, hey, these people are trying to kill us.
Yeah.
So, it's kill or be killed, right? So.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I didn't kill anybody that I know of, unless I hit a few people, when we shot at them. But you couldn't see them. They were just hiding and stuff and shooting and run away. So probably I didn't kill anybody. So that, actually is a pretty good thing that I know of,
Exactly. There wasn't somebody like standing in front of you that you shot.
No,
yeah.
That would have been, definitely I see why people get this post-traumatic stress
From doing
disorder from that type of situation,
When you were there, because you said, obviously it's like the whole kill or be killed, you were constantly on the defense. Did you have any good luck charms while you were there, or superstitions? Anything?
Well, and actually it wasn't, we weren't on the defense. We were out there hunting for these people,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, I actually had a little plastic crucifix that I wore.
Oh, wow.
You know, what do they call it? A rosary.
Yes.
Made out of like green string in a plastic one. So I had that. So I guess you could call it a good luck charm. But
Definitely.
every time we went out on patrol, I'd always, you know, make the sign of the cross and say, you know, protect us this day. You know. So it must have worked, I guess.
It did. It was
for me.
It was your good luck charm. It protected you.
Yeah.
Do you, when you were there, were there, like, what did you guys do to pass the time when you had downtime? Was there anything that you guys did?
A lot, you know, you would just be in a place and just wait for somebody to call and say, okay, now they'd call the lieutenant, say, okay, take the people out here, go over here, and they had the maps, you know. So, you know, I read some books. I had a little transistor radio that I listened to. There was one station that you could get. But a lot of just, you know, there was a lot of time just in like an area, not a base. You think of a base as a big place. These are the little compounds, you know, some barbed wire around or something. So we spent time, but we moved around a lot. You know?
Okay.
It wasn't just like out there in one place, then you'd go out. We'd go here for, you know, and then we'd spend the night, and then we'd move the next day. Then we moved around a lot. It wasn't just like we were just in one spot out there. But, you know, it was rice paddies, and then there was hills around there. I was in the Central Highlands, not too far from the South China Sea. So.
How did you stay in touch with your family when you were serving?
That was kind of strange. I mean, nowadays, you know, people can instantly communicate if they get the, you know, they're at a base or something. They can use the phone or see people's, you know. So you'd write a letter, you know, and the letter would take 2 weeks to get back here, and then the people would get it and they'd write back to you. So it was a whole month gone by before you,
oh, wow.
You know, and there wasn't any visual, you know, you were just there, you know.
So just everything was through mail.
It was through the mail, no telephone calls, no FaceTime or whatever.
Did they send care packages?
My mother actually did. She sent a lot of stuff because the kids were so poor there. You know, it's a culture shock to see real poverty. I mean, these people just lived in basically huts. You know, farmers, what they were, and they were poor. I'd never seen anything like that before in my life. And so my mother would send clothes and stuff for these kids. You know, I'd pass the clothes out for the kids. And she actually, that Christmas, she sent me a little tiny Christmas tree, plastic one, for Christmas.
That sounds nice. That was good for morale. I'm sure everybody loved that.
Yeah.
You have to have a little Christmas tree.
But there were, you know, they did believe in Christian. They were Catholic, some of them.
Yeah.
They weren't all like animists or different Buddhists or whatever, you know, type of religion.
What was, well, kind of speaking of the holidays, what was the food like there? Was it like packages?
You had the sea rations is what they called them, and it was a little box, and you had, you know, like a canned pork or something, or then you had like maybe a can of fruit, and you'd have, you know, and everybody liked certain things. They had like little white cakes, I forget what they call them, but after a while, towards the end, that's all I was eating towards the end, is like these canned pears. I just, you know.
Yeah.
And so for years after I got back, I never wanted to have a pear again. But, you know, they had a little thing of cigarettes in there and sugar and stuff. And, you know, so that's what you ate. That's for your sea rations. Occasionally, I think on Thanksgiving, they brought out some, you know, like a Thanksgiving dinner. They had some turkey and stuff like that, and mashed potatoes. But that was the only time.
Yeah.
The rest of it was just this sea rations.
Did you guys ever run out of food, or were you?
No.
No, you always have enough
we had
supplies
enough
and food.
Yeah, and that was one of the things with my job was to call in the resupply. So if somebody needed new pants or whatever they want, they'd come to me and I'd have to write it down, need some pants, and then I'd call the resupply in, and then they'd bring it out like every 4 days. They'd resupply us by helicopter.
So you had a very important job.
Well,
you were getting your communication.
Well, yeah, it was important, but
When you went home, what was the first thing you ate?
I don't remember what I ate, but when I got home, I had to sleep on the floor in my parents' living room for 4 or 5 days because I couldn't sleep in the bed. It was too soft. I was used to sleeping on the ground on a hard surface, so I don't remember what I ate.
Was it hard for you to acclimate back to the normal food because you were so used to eating out of cans?
Not really. I don't remember that, but I do remember not being able to drive a car for a while. That my mother had to drive me around because it would go too fast. You were just used to walking everywhere, so that was scary to get in a car. So I wouldn't drive for a while. My mother had to drive me around until I got used to it.
Oh wow! No, that does make sense though. I mean, almost a year of not driving, just walking everywhere.
9 months.
Yes. What was your last day like in Vietnam?
Well, when you're gonna get go send back to the world is what they call this place, the world. I was where I was. I mean, it's different for everybody, but they sent us to this bridge guarding Highway 1. That's the main north-south road that runs, parallel with the rail line, which had been cut. But so that's kind of, you go there for the last 10 days. So I was on this bridge for 10 days, and so a few things happened there that were, kind of nerve-wracking. This one time we were there, the bunker, had bunkers on either side of the bridge, and at night, then somebody down the road there started shooting towards us, and I just remember hearing if a bullet goes near you, it makes like this crack sound, like crack, because that means that it's pretty close to your head, so it'd be this crack and then boom, then you hear the report from the muzzle down the road. So they were shooting at us, they didn't get any of us, but just always remember that crack, boom, just
wow.
So it was the wind going by,
yeah,
near you, near your head or whatever, I guess, near your head. And I remember that, and then this one night, this guy one of our guys went down. Well, we didn't know what happened, but we had trip flares all over the place. So if somebody's walking, trying to sneak up on you, they trip this flare. The flare would go off. And so this flare went off underneath the bridge. And, we're up in there in the bunker, just guard duty, and yelled out, said, who's there? Nobody said nothing. Who's there? And finally the guy said, it's me. I went down to, go to the bathroom.
Oh
it's like, you were ready to, ready to throw some grenades down there or something because nobody said nothing. It's like,
oh my
really
goodness,
stupid, man.
Wow.
Really stupid. People, did some stupid things there, but.
Wow.
So but then it was the last day. Yes, excuse me, to continue on. So I left the bridge and went back to the rear, and you turn in your, they had a little PX there. You could buy some civilian clothes and turn all your equipment in and stuff. And then when we finally went down to Cam Ranh Bay again to fly out, and it was at night, and we were sitting on the bus on the end of the runway or near where the plane would come in. I remember the plane came in, it was at night, and it landed, and it didn't wait there. And as soon as it landed, the bus just started going. It went right out to the plane, and so then everybody got on the plane, and as soon as it took off, people started cheering and stuff like that. And, and the stewardesses we'll call them round eyes, because you're so used to seeing women with slanted eyes that, like that was pretty novel to see a round eye girl, so. But everybody's cheering for a while, and it's like, okay, we're leaving. They took off real fast. It went up real fast, like at an angle. It didn't just take a long way to avoid any kind of fire coming from, trying to shoot it down.
Right.
So it went up and then that was it. That was my last memory of that place.
Oh my goodness. When you flew home, was anybody there waiting for you, or did you just, what was that like?
We got back to SeaTac. That's the same place we flew out of, SeaTac Airport in Seattle. And nobody was waiting for. Nobody knew when I was coming home.
Oh, okay.
So we had, but I will say one thing though. The interesting about that, you're sitting there and in the little room, and the guy comes. He says, "Okay, now if anybody's got anything, any drugs or anything like that, just put them under the seat. And nobody will say nothing. We'll just go on through, right?" And remember this one guy. He had this pillow he was carrying with him, and I remember, they checked the pillow for some reason and took him in the back room. So they must have found something in the pillow. Didn't see him after that. Probably arrested him, but they gave you a chance if you had any drugs or anything. But so anyways, you go, then there you are, and then you have to fill out paperwork to sign out. They give you instructions and stuff, and then that's it. You're discharged. I was discharged as soon as I got back. That was the end of my 2 years. In your draft, you get 2 years.
Wow.
So then I called my parents, and they came pick me up in Ontario, over here at night. And that was.
What was that like? Were they so excited to finally see you?
I guess they thought my mother thought I was going to be killed over there.
Oh.
Which,
Yeah, every mom's nightmare.
Sure. So I think it's harder on the people that are back here than.
Yeah, because they don't know.
Right.
They have
don't know
no
what's going
idea.
on. So.
What did you do in the days and the weeks afterward when you got back home? Did you just try reacclimating? Did you?
Well, I had to I got out a month early early release to go back to college. Otherwise, I'd have had to been in for 24 months. I was only in for 23 months. So I guess getting ready to go down to San Diego to college.
Okay, and so what did you study when you went to San Diego?
San Diego State. Yeah, I already had 3 years of college when I got drafted. So I majored in economics and minored in political science. So I just basically finished up my degree for
Okay.
a year. I had 1 year left. So.
That's awesome. What did you go on to do as your for your career?
Well, here I am right now. It's been a long road since then. A lot of things. I didn't start a career. I just did a different type of job. Well, I worked for the Ace parking lot down San Diego.
Uh-huh.
Ace, they owned all the parking lots. I worked there for a little bit, parked cars.
Okay.
So I had not really a great job, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really get a good job right away. I finally ended up working for the city of San Diego as an administrative assistant, which,
Hey, it's working for the city.
yeah, that was a pretty good job, but then I left that job.
Right, you were over it. What did you do when you came to Palm Springs?
Well, that was a long time. Well, I lived in San Diego, got back in, 70, lived in San Diego. I got out of the service in 70, so lived in San Diego till like 75, and then Patty and I moved to Bozeman, Montana. We lived there 3 years. And then after that, we came back to Riverside and then to Palm Springs. So.
Okay. Wow. Well, you're a traveler. Well, do you or have you kept in contact with anybody that you served with?
No, in Bozeman, Montana, I tried to contact. I think I contacted somebody, but I was going to see him, but then it didn't work out. I don't know. But so no.
No.
I don't know what happened to any of those people, to be honest with you. probably better not to know.
Yeah. Well, did your military experience influence your thinking about the war or about the military in general?
Yeah, sure, it would have that effect on anybody. So I can't really say it, that I had a new philosophy about the world. Or, well, you have a different worldview, whatever your experiences are in life. That's who you are. It doesn't necessarily have to be a war or anything. I mean, wherever you go, there you are. So yeah, but it was, then over the years, you start thinking about, it was obviously it was not a it was stupid to go there in the first place. That's what I've come to realize. It was a stupid war, and just like now, as far as I'm concerned, both these wars are stupid, Iraq and Afghanistan. But
Yeah.
I don't know that it was. I'm sure it was influenced by me having been to a war. My worldview.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, because a lot of people, like, for instance, somebody like me who's never been in that situation, my thinking would probably be a little bit different.
Yeah,
So
sure.
you were on the inside. So, just one final question.
Okay.
Is there anything that you would like to add that I have not asked or that you have not said during this interview? Anything that you want us to know?
Well, there's so many, like I said, 9 months, and every day was intense. 20, you're up the whole time. So a lot of things happen. A lot of different things happened, and it would take a long time to go over all the things that happened. But something like that, where not just in war or anything that where you come close to, or you think that you're, could be killed or something. I mean, you could be killed when you drive a car out here. You'd be sitting in your house and have some space debris land on you. So you're always just, there's no guarantee in life or anything. But I think that, something like that, where you're always on edge like that, makes you appreciate just being alive. No matter what you have, whether you had, not any money or whatever, as long as you have your health, that's the main thing, is your health.
That's true.
So that's about it, I guess.
Well, Dan, I appreciate you doing this for us. Like, honestly, it was a very interesting story. And I feel like I've learned so much more than I ever knew about.
There's a lot to learn about everything in life, but I'm glad I was able to, help you for your class and stuff like that. So
Absolutely. Once my interview with Dan concluded, we continued the conversation, and there were a couple of questions that I failed to remember to ask during the interview, so I thought that it would be important to share that with you in my own separate recording. He does know that I am sharing this information, so again, I feel that it's important and it's good information for someone to have if they're doing research on the Vietnam War. The first thing is racism. I asked him if there was racism in Vietnam, and he said that he never experienced racism when he was serving. He said that in your squad and in the platoons, it's groups of soldiers and you're all there to protect one another. You're there to get from point A to point B alive, and that there is no time for racism. They were there to protect each other. They were there to protect themselves, and they all had the same end goal in mind, and that was to get home to their loved ones. So no, there was not time for racism. He said that they did fun things together to pass time. He said that it was a unit, and that, like I said, there was no racism when he was serving. He never experienced that, and I feel that that's very important because racism is such a strong topic even today, and it's nice to know that he did not experience this when he was there, that they were able to work together no matter where they were from or what their race, religion, or whatever the background is. They were able to serve
together, protect one another, and do what they were there for. And another thing that he had told me about was explosions. He said that when they were walking, that whenever they saw a large vehicle that didn't appear to have people in it, the first thing that came to mind was, is it going to explode? He said that a lot of these vehicles had explosives in them, and that when they would walk by, it would trigger. So that was always something that they were constantly worried about. Just another thing in the back of their mind that was constantly there. So that, again, something so scary, and just one more thing that they had to worry about every day as they were walking. When Dan came home, he said that it was an adjustment. I know that earlier we spoke about the adjustment to food and to sleeping, because he couldn't sleep on beds because he was so used to sleeping on the floor. Another thing that he said that was really hard for him was not wearing his M16. He said he felt naked with it, almost vulnerable, because it was something that he wore for so long. He wore it for 9 months. It was a part of him. He had to have it. It was his only means of protection. So when he came home, it was very weird for him not having that with him. So that must have been extremely hard. And he also said that when he got home, he could not drive. He said that his mom had to drive him everywhere because the cars moved too fast. He was so used to walking by foot that being in a car was overwhelming for him. And that's a thought. I mean, I didn't think about that before we had our interview, to the extent of coming back and readjusting. Didn't think of vehicles. You don't think of that if you're not serving. So that is also something that was, again, very hard for him to adjust to. Another thing that he said that is sad, because, again, he was drafted, and yes, he was drafted, but he volunteered for Vietnam, but he went there because he wanted to feel like he was helping. He said that the Vietnam War vets would wear a boon hat. That is something that shows you served in the Vietnam War. He said that one day he was at the beach wearing his boon hat, and that a woman walked up to him and said, "Are you really proud of serving? Are you really proud of what you did?" And he said he didn't say anything, but she asked again. And obviously she was somebody that did not agree with the war. So she asked him again, "Are you proud of what you did?" So he said from that day forward, he never wore his boon hat again. He said that he never really talked about it with anybody because the Vietnam War was so controversial. There were so many people that did not agree with it, but he said that a lot of people didn't understand that they didn't necessarily go there because they wanted to, that many of these soldiers were there because they were drafted, because there weren't enough people that wanted to go, so they were forced to go. So that was really hard for him, feeling like he couldn't talk about it, like he had to keep it a secret. So he said that a way that he was able to heal was he self-healed himself. He said that he read a lot of books, and reading books about it, he said, gave him a better sense of it, and it just helped him heal and move past it. And that's important as well. When you're not serving, or if you've never served, you don't think of these things. You don't think about what they're feeling when they're there, or the struggles are when they come home. So hearing his story and hearing about his struggles and his, readjustment to life after, it was very eye-opening. And I have to say that I'm extremely grateful for my time with him. I'm very grateful that he shared this with me. He did tell me that when I first asked him to interview that he was very nervous. He said that the thought of going back there and sharing the story was scary for him. So I thank him very much for sharing that with me and giving me a better understanding of the Vietnam War as a whole and what he went through when he was there for the 9 months that he was there. And also what he went through when he came home. That couldn't have been easy. So thank you to Dan for sharing his experience, and thank you so much to all of the men and women that have served and continue to serve for our country. I am forever grateful.